Okay.
Your audio is kind of peaking. You might turn it down a little.
If I don't get it really high, then it doesn't sound right at all. True facts. Okay. It sounds garbly when I use the wrong microphone. But when I use this, if it gets up there in the yellow red, that's where it needs to be.
That's where it likes to be.
Yeah. So that you can hear me well. And you can, when somebody else speaks, you can kind of hear them. But that's about it. Okay. All right, so number 8. If you want to copy these down and then do the homework later, that's fine. If not, that's also fine. We can kind of see. You can kind of see where it works for you. You may be able to pick it up. You may be able to pick up stuff from what we're doing today. You also may be able to pick it up from study guide stuff coming soon. So we can kind of see where it works best for you. Number 8 is invisible. Where is it? There it is. I found it. Okay. Number 8 is y equals x plus 9/2 squared minus 49/4. Number 10 is y equals -2 times x minus 5/4 squared plus 25/8. Number 12 is y equals -3 times x minus 2 squared plus 2. 14 is y equals 2 times x minus 1 squared minus 5. 16 is y equals x minus 2 squared plus 5. 18 is y equals x minus 6 squared. And number 20, number 20 I shouldn't have assigned you because it's a graph. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I did not get that.
That's fine. We'll look at that. You'll be able to do it today. So, well, that's the plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what questions do we have over those? Boys, you've got to ask questions, or at least Emily, because Amy and Emma need to see some things. So you have to ask questions.
Can we do number 8?
Good. Number 8. Sounds great. Oh, he's a rhymer. Oh, I need to resave this. Give me half a second. As today. Hello, how are you? Algebra 2, and actually, let's continue. What did we call it the other day? We called it transformation of quadratic graphs. Quad graphs, part 2. Okay. Now, number 8. We're going to write this in vertex form. Y equals x squared plus 9x plus 8. So, as a matter of review or new, vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So we're trying to get this into that form. The first thing we need is for a to be 1, which it is in this problem, right? Because A has got to be 1 in order to continue on, right? So we're good to go there. So what's my next step after that? Move the 8 over. That's right. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So we go y equals x squared plus 9x and then plus 8. Then what?
You just move it over?
Yeah, just move it over for now. That's right.
Then we would put it into e over, square.
Yes. So we get our green part, and we do b, which in this case is 9, right, over 2 squared. So what's 9 halves squared? What's 9 squared? What's 9 times 9? Thank you. What's 2 squared? 4. Okay. So we're going to add 81 over 4. And then how can we do that legally? What do we have to also do? No, we're not going to do it to the other side. We're going to subtract it because we're going to keep it on the same side this way. So we're going to subtract it off the same side. That's the kind of new bit. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as completing the square otherwise.
The other side of what?
We didn't do it on the other side. That's what I said. It's on the same side, but we're adding it and then we're also subtracting it. Because 81 fourths minus 81 fourths is 0, so we can do that legally if we add it and subtract it, both. Okay. Now what are we going to do? We should have some clue or notes that can tell us something. What should we do now? Combine which like terms? Because, yes, 2 of them are going to get combined. There's not x's that match because this is an x squared and this is an x. So that's not remotely what we did last time in class. Or theoretically, if you did your homework, it's not remotely what we did.
We do what, like, goes into both of them and put it into the parentheses.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be something squared, right? How do we know what this thing is? It's always something. It's always not B, but B's related to it. I am very proud of the 2 of you for guessing in the dark. If we were doing regular, but y'all actually know more than you realize. If we were doing regular completing the square, how would we know what to put here? It's not C.
Negative H.
H.
Where's H? I don't know.
8. That's just a generic form, girl. These are numbers.
Oh. Well, is that?
The vertex is this. We've actually seen this before. We just didn't know how to get to it. The vertex is HK.
Yeah, well, how do you know what that is?
Forget that.
Stack number squared.
Not the squared part. That's not where we pull it from.
Well, I'm saying.
But it's this number. Yes. Yes, you're right. Yes. What you said is gibberish, but what you meant is correct. But what you meant is correct. Good job. It's always the divided by 2 one. Always. When we complete the square regular, when we complete the square like this, it's always that one. So that's all of this part, right?
I don't know, I didn't get a single homework problem right, so I'm not an expert.
Now what? Yes, say it out loud. You got, yeah, 8 minus 81 fourths, which is what?
Is negative 49/4.
Sounds right to me. See, 8 fourths would be 32 fourths. And would you say how many? 49? Yep, that sounds right. Yeah, negative 49 fourths. That's the answer. It is, in fact, the answer. What else do we need to look at, gentlemen
10.
or lady? Number 10. Okay. Number 10. We started with, oh yeah, there's no C. Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Equals negative 2x squared plus 5x. So we get to look at 2 different things. First of all, there's not a C, and second of all, we've got an A that's not 1, right? So we've got to deal with all that. We got to do that example, correct? So, excuse me. What do we need to do first? If there was a C, what would we do first? Move it over, right? There's no C, so we don't move nothing over. So we're going to divide the 2 off. We're technically factoring out a negative 2, right? And then you'll divide it on each one. And this is ultimately what's happening. So we're factoring a negative 2 out, equals negative 2. And then we factor negative 2 out, what's left? X squared
Plus 5 over 2x.
5 over 2x. That's all correct. It doesn't sound like you're totally clueless. That's good. I didn't think you were totally clueless. Just sometimes you think that. And so I wanted to remind you that you are not. Well, of course, everyone has moments of cluelessness. I guess let's leave a gap, huh? Okay. Now what do we do? The hint I shall give is we will complete the square. So we got to get the green part, right? Mm-hmm. So what's B in this problem? 5 halves, right? We're completing the square from this step right here. Okay, so 5 halves divided by 2. What's divided by 2 the same as? It's going to be a lot easier to think about it this way. Yes, that's right. It's both correct. It's just easier to think about this way. That's squared. So what's 5 halves times 1 half?
6 halves.
No. Because you wouldn't, it's not 6. Because you don't add them. 5/4, yes. Good job answering questions. So proud.
I don't like fractions.
That's okay. And then 5/4 squared would be what?
Not even half of 10.
What's 5 squared? What's,
No, 25.
yeah. And what's 4 squared? 16.
That cannot be simplified.
That's true. All true. So we're gonna add 25/16. Now this is where there's this tricky bit, right? It's been fairly straightforward if you remember the steps so far, right? This next bit is where it gets a little bit tricky because we're not gonna subtract 25/16 because that doesn't make it work yet. What do we have to do to figure out what we're actually going to add or subtract or whatever to make this even? Yeah, well, not everything, but multiply this by -2. It'll give us what we're going to do at the end. That's exactly right.
Because we have to add it to, yeah.
Yes.
Over there, yeah. Okay.
Yes. So -2 and then times 25/16. What does that equal?
-50 over 32.
Not over 30 because you wouldn't multiply because the 2 this would be 1, so -50 over 16. If you pre-reduce, you might can do it in your head, or you can just do it all in your calculator. Don't care, whatever you want to do. Yes. If you were doing it, by the way, just for the sake of thinking through things and making your life easier as you continue to familiarize yourself more, if you pre-reduce and divide these by 2, you end up with 1/8. And then 25 times 1 is 25, and 1 times 8 is 8. Okay. So let's go with a darker green since we're mixing green and blue. Yeah, look at. So we're going to do the opposite of that. So we're going to plus 25 over 8. I guess I should finish writing this thing out. Yes, negative. Do the opposite of that to get rid of it, right? Now we got to do one more thing and then we're finished. So, enough to see what we need? Yes, it is. We basically have to just write the answer at this point. So what are we going to do? What?
-2x squared plus 2 is 5 halves squared.
Now, high 5 halves, 5/4, because it's this one.
5/4 squared plus 25 over 8.
Yep. What let's do is, I think, based on what I'm seeing, well, before we do this, are there any other questions from the homework? And then I think I know we're going to kind of tweak our lesson bit because the actual part of the lesson today is really quite short, actually, because it's pretty easy. The part that we're adding today is not hard. Are there any other questions on any other problems that we did today? Okay. So what let's do is let's hit a couple more of this type as we'll do one or two more just together, and then we'll do another one or two guided practices because I feel like we need a little bit more practice on this step first. How does that sound to everybody? Sound good? Does that sound correct? Because there especially on one like this, there is one or two parts that are legitimately confusing. Right? Well, I doubt that's quite true because you or answered two questions perfect. So, so I don't think it's quite the whole thing. It may feel that way, but not quite. You ought to be able to get move C over. You ought to be able to get that step. Yeah. So let's do a couple. Let's do another one just like this one, or kind of like this one. As an example, let's do y equals negative x squared minus 4x. Oops. Yeah, that's still right. Minus 1. Okay? So, we want to get this into vertex form, so what should we do? What is step 1? Move C over. That's very difficult.
Very strenuous process.
That's what. Now what? This one's just a little bit sneaky. What were you going to say? Go ahead. Okay, yeah. So you missed something, and it's a little bit sneaky that something, because A has to be 1. It is not currently 1. So we gotta factor out a negative 1, negative, whatever, right? So we've got to make it be y equals negative, and then x squared plus 4x. We'll leave a little gap so we have something to put there. And then minus 1. Now what are we going to do? 4 over 2 squared. What's 4 over 2? What? Yes. Yes. 2 squared, which equals 4. So now that we did that, now what?
Plus 4, and then.
Except it's, oh yeah, no, you're right. I almost said a lie. Now it's a little bit sneaky, right? So what's going to go over here? Plus 4. That's right. Because that's what would get rid of it. Because when you multiply it times negative, we've got minus 4, and the opposite of minus 4 is plus 4. Yeah. It's a little brain bendy, which is why we went ahead and was why I picked this one. Now what? Pretty much, yeah. I think we can pretty much go straight to the answer now. So what will it be?
Y equals negative. X squared.
Not squared, just x. I don't know what you're writing, whether you're writing x squared on your paper or you're just saying out loud, but I want to make sure and correct you so that you don't accidentally put squared.
On the answer.
Yep, exactly. So x plus 2 squared, right? Is that where you were headed, sounded like, before I interrupted you?
Yes.
Oops. And then Plus 3. That's right. Okay, let's do 1 or 2 as a guided practice.
How did 4x plus 4 become 2?
Okay, so this is factoring it. So I'm going to explain this 2 ways, so we can get kind of the full explanation of what's going on. So what we're really doing is we're factoring x squared plus 4x plus 4, right? So when we factor that trinomial, we do 2 sets of parentheses, right? You remember this? Yes, maybe so. What would go in the first slot? X and x, that's right. And then we need 2 things that multiply to get the last term. And then 2 and 2. And then, that says 2. That should say x. Okay? And then we got to see if that adds to get the middle term. So 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. Can we add or subtract those to get the middle term, which is 4? Yes, add both, right? Plus, plus. We follow our nose and our mouth. And so this is x plus 2 times x plus 2, right? This is what we're doing. Now, x plus 2 times itself is x plus 2 squared, right? Now, when we're doing completing the square, the whole reason we do the green part is because we know we're forcing it to do something that's going to be squared. And it's always, 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 always going to be this number. Not erase, whatever you're doing, stupid machine. So that's actually not the machine's fault, that's my fault. Stupid thumb. That was an operator error, absolutely. It's always going to be this number, whatever it is. Whatever the b divided by 2 is, it's always going to be that number. Always. And so, but this is what we're actually doing. This is just a shortcut that always works for this type of problem.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Good. I'm glad.
It's a lot less confusing than just x's now.
Poof. Yeah, if you didn't see it, yeah, if you didn't get it to begin with, it's going to be confusing every time after. I can understand that. Absolutely. Okay. So, we're doing a guided practice. That was the plan. Still is the plan. I thought I already had a space for the plan, but I guess I can fit it right here. How's that sound? Yes? Good. Oh, I did. And then I erased the GP. I remember. We erased it to answer a question. We're going to do a GP. I haven't started numbering anything because we're not fully into lesson mode yet. If you want to number this as whatever, you're welcome to do so. But that's the reason why I haven't started numbering things yet. So we're going to do a GP. We're going to do this one. We're going to convert y equals negative 4x squared minus 24x equals minus 15, and we want to convert that to vertex form. Ready, set, go. You can of course ask questions if and when you have them, but go. See if there are any questions, if we can see if we can isolate where they are. So there's the beginning. Any questions on that part so far? Okay. So the next part that is the trickiest part is that right there. So we have questions on that. Do we need to see where the 36 came from? Good. The 9 came from, so when we're looking at just like, so it's got a minus 15 on the outside, right? So that's there. What's the B on this right here at this step?
24x.
Well, so you have to take the B from the one where we factored it out. So it's got to be from here. So it's the one by the x. So instead of being negative 24, it's 6 right? Because it's the one next to the x after you factor it out. So we factored out a -4. And then remember, when you factor, you pull it out, put parentheses, and then you're dividing by that to get the rest. That's how we do when we factor out something. A GCF, if you will. Although it's not quite the GCF because we didn't pull an X out. We just factored part of it. Does that make sense? Why that's 6 and why the B is 6. So then we got the 9 by doing this part right here. So now that we know what B is, because we factored it out, then we divide B by 2 and square it, and we get 9. Does that make sense? Emma, does that make sense? That part? Or are you still confused on the B, on what the B is?
B is 6.
B is 6. You understand why it's 6? Yeah. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, I think I can handle that. We can work with you, I think. we can progress with that. So now, again, the confusing bit after that, in my opinion, is we're not going to subtract 9 to make it all work.
Why would that still be 15 if we were doing the more?
Because that's why we move it over first. So you're only doing the and I was afraid of that, and I should have written it on a separate line. There's kind of a middle line right here, because like before going to that line, it would look like y equals x squared. No, what am I doing? Yeah. -4x squared minus 24x with the -15 scooched over. Yeah, and then you're only factoring it out from the first two.
And the 36, where did that come from?
So the 36 would be to figure out what's here. You have to do the opposite of this guy. So -4 times the 9.
Okay.
And so you get -36, and you have to put the opposite of that to make it work. So that's why it's plus 36. Which is why I wrote it in a teal color, because it's a combination of the green and the blue steps. You see, smart, trying to help. That's the theory anyway. Color theory, to be exact. Well, that is the way I made that work. Yeah, it definitely is. Okay.
This is not color.
So then after you do that, the last step would be writing the answer down. So any questions on that part?
Although I'd rather do color theory than math, for sure.
I like a little of both.
I'm not really a big math fan.
You're more than you think you are.
No.
Everybody is. They just don't understand what math is.
Math is cringe.
I say you're using it all the time. Using things that wouldn't exist without some pretty complicated math. True facts.
Yeah, I appreciate its existence, but that doesn't mean I want to do it.
Yeah, but what you're learning in high school isn't even what mathematicians do. But that's true in pretty much every profession. If you become a programmer and you go and do what you learned in your first few years of college, they'll fire you because that's gonna take way longer than just using something somebody else already wrote. True facts. That's kind of like college in a nutshell. Learning how to do things so that later you can just use something somebody else already did. Even things like law and medicine are that way. Just saying. It's all true. It's all true, all true, all true. Let's do one more GP before we move on to the today thing.
Although whether or not it should be true is totally
I want.
different debate. But it is. Whether you like it or not.
What are you crying about? What do you say?
I'm saying that whether or not it should be true that that's how life is, that's a totally different debate.
Oh, it's definitely how life. It's definitely how it should be. That is not up for debate at all. There would be no progress if it weren't true. We would be stuck. We would be stuck in the Stone Age if it weren't true. That's how societies get built. Is building on the ideas and inventions of the past. True fact. Squared plus 10x. Ready, go. There's the beginning. Any questions on that step?
Why
How'd
wouldn't
you
you
get
do?
10/3?
No, I keep forgetting to do the 3.
Yeah, you got to do that factoring out bit.
I didn't, yeah, I messed up slightly.
Okay. Are you learning from your mistakes?
Yes.
Good.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's
Three
better.
reduce X.
It does make life much easier if you learn to pre-reduce fractions.
Yeah.
I do have a video about that on the Ember Learning Labs YouTube channel.
Fancy. I suppose you don't get as many views over there as you get on Meet and Mischief.
No, I'm not really trying to. I do want to actually do some videos that are more like general stuff, especially stuff for like more general homeschool topics, like making transcripts and credits and things like that. But we haven't done them yet. Not really trying to build a YouTube channel, but trying to be helpful to humans. So let's see. The next step would be.
So there's a lot of those concepts you look up and you just get no results.
Well, and most people, their recommendation, which is a good one, although it can be daunting for new folks and people that have never done it before, people's answer to those questions is go look it up on Texas Homeschool Coalition. They've got great articles, which they do, but that's rather daunting for somebody that doesn't know anything about what they're doing. Like, okay, that's not enough information.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Coalition
This should be teal. I'm sorry.
into a war.
What'd you say?
Texas Homeschool Coalition should be turned into a war.
No, it makes me feel like I'm.
It does kind of sound like a activist something, but well, actually it kind of is activist, but it is kind of a political organization.
Well,
but-
yeah, homeschooling has always been a political thing.
No. But well, it is sometimes. Less nowadays, I would argue, than it used to be when I was homeschooled.
It definitely.
Because there's less, there are still homeschools that do things for religious or political, quote unquote, reasons, but there are some that just don't have faith in the education system.
Which, should be a decent amount of people. Having seen
Yeah, some
the
people have both.
education system.
Especially after COVID.
Oh, it was already a problem before COVID. COVID just poked some very important holes.
And it just shone a light on things. It actually shone a light on several things that have been issues for a while.
And so now people actually have to deal with that.
Well, yeah.
Or at least they're going to say that they're going to, but they're just going to wait till everyone else forgets about
Because remember, yeah, you got it to get this number, you got to multiply this one times this one. And then do the opposite on the outside.
What does it have?
I don't have a teal pen.
It's not like blue. It's not a pen though.
How did you get 25 over 3?
How did I get 25 over what?
Over 3. Oh, you reduced it. No.
Yeah. It's better than.
Yeah, you probably had 75 ninths. Yes?
75 over 27.
Okay, so that's the same problem your brother was making a minute ago. When you multiply 3 times 25 ninths, the 3 would just multiply here, not here and here. It doesn't do double duty. So it's 3 over 1, right? So it should have been 75 ninths and then reduced to 25 thirds. I can understand the concept. It's like there's nothing to multiply. I've got to do it, so make it work. I get it. I get why the mistake is made. I'm not saying it's like totally like bizarre and bonko. I get it. But it is a mistake. Okay.
Mistakes are mistakes.
What time is it? Let's do another GP because we're not gonna have time to do the other bit today anyway. That's fine. Because I don't want to do that in 6 minutes. That'd be a mistake because then we'd have to reteach it all on Thursday anyway. So what kind of stupidity is that?
I thought today was Thursday for some very strange reason. I was like,
This week does feel weird. I think it's because, I don't know. For me, it's because my weekend was weird. But I don't know about y'all. Y'all may have had weird weekends too.
And I didn't work yesterday like I normally do.
I had a strange weekend.
So it's weird.
Ooh, let's do that one. That one's exciting. Y'all are going to love that one.
I bet.
Y equals
That was not a Y for a second.
x squared minus 2/3 x minus 26 ninths. Ready, go. Nate's favorite, fractions on top of fractions. Because they're not actually that hard.
No,
Fractions are just numbers.
Yeah, fractions are numbers with mental disabilities.
Well, they're not whole, so I guess you could argue that from a semantic point of view.
It's purely semantic because numbers don't have
Yeah.
don't have mental health to begin with because they're numbers.
Well, disabilities are not only mental.
Well, yeah, but I said specifically mental disabilities.
Oh, I didn't hear mental. I only heard disabilities. I think, just using the word disabilities is a better, saying mental disabilities is just like goofy. But saying disabilities, you could have a semantic, silly argument that it's true.
2/3 could be missing a leg.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's partway. Any questions on that part of the way?
That makes sense.
There's actually one more thing that must be done before this answer can be truly acceptable. Because we got to do this. And then that answer is acceptable
Isn't that, why is it acceptable with that?
because it's not reduced.
Isn't that 26 over 9 instead of 27?
This is 26 over 9 and then minus 1/9.
Oh.
is minus 27/9. I am, in fact, going to assign you a little bit of homework to get a little bit more practice with this topic. We're going to do page 279, numbers 42 through 46 evens. If you want to try to do all of what the instructions say to do, you're welcome to look at the lesson and try to get a jump on Thursday's lesson. That's totally fine. Or you can only, if you want to just practice this specifically, which is totally fine, you can just write each function in vertex form and don't worry about the axis of symmetry and all that other stuff. That's fine, and that's very fine. All I really want for this is for y'all to practice this topic a little bit more. That's all that I'm really expecting or desiring.